So today I wanted to take a look at what my first PC was back in the day. And my first PC was not even a gaming computer, it was just a normal laptop. And as you can see the specs right there, it was nothing really that impressive, but at the time, for me, this fit more than my needs. I was in middle school when I first got this computer, and I remember spending my own money as a kid and, you know, saving up on the birthday gifts, and usually, you know, your family giving you cash, because we didn't have any, you know, desktops or needs for one, but I, you know, was always into technology, so I wanted one myself. And just giving a zoom in on the specs, back then I was rocking an Intel Core i3 3rd gen with Intel graphics and 4 gigs of RAM and 500 gigabyte hard drive. So nowadays it's nothing like that. I actually went in, opened it, and installed an SSD just for the sake of this video, because hard drives are just ridiculously slow now, you know. But just so you can see how quickly this thing boots up. When I bought it, it was Windows 8.1, but Windows 10 became a free upgrade path. And the specs of this computer, as you can see, we got an Intel i3, 4 gigs of RAM, and a 120 SSD. So that was the specs that I was running back then. And you know, one of the things that I did was, because as a kid I did not have internet, was I actually played games off the CD and DVD ROM. So that's what I did. So today we're going to be taking a look at that, but not on this laptop. I'm going to be testing out some of the games that I have in my collection that are DVDs, and I'm going to be benchmarking some of them on a complete, almost 100% recreated system that I've built. Since I do come across a lot of these older parts, I actually hunted down some of the parts that would have been out at the same time I purchased this laptop, and the price that if I remember correctly, was around $400 to $500 for this specific model. I'll try and see if I can find a retail seller price that was used back then, but I believe I bought it at Best Buy or Fry's Electronics, and I paid a median of like $400 to $500 for this exact laptop. So, you know, as a final goodbye, I decided to build a system with the parts around the same time as this laptop, and you know, just seeing how it would have performed back then had I chosen to build it myself, and if it could still even hold up today, and if not, what I would have probably done as an upgrade path instead. So, you know, just showing that as well. So we're gonna get on into it. I'm gonna show you guys. Now, going through a time machine, heading back to what would have been probably my first gaming PC if I had known how to build at that time, would have kind of featured what's in here. And ideally this is probably, you know, a realistic setup of what it would have looked like if I had a gaming machine and complete setup back then. So, you know, we would have had like a 4:3 ratio monitor. We'd have the desktop right here, which, you know, is in a Rosewood case, a MATX case, rocking the optical drive, normal DVD, and a Blu-ray optical drive, along with a card reader right here. And then, you know, front panel ports, but back then USB 3 was not really mainstream. Only high-end motherboards really supported those, which, you know, the motherboard in this PC unfortunately does not have a USB 3.0 header. So, you know, just a quick show of this case. You know, the intake for the airflow would actually be on here on this panel, and the components inside, most cases now only have a glass panel, and you really only get the front, maybe 3 fans and 1 exhaust, which is still okay. But you know, you got to remove these optical drives and CDs readers, which I personally still like using. I know a lot of people, you know, they're getting old, so no use for them, but you know, back then this is what a setup would look like. You know, it's pretty cool. And then, you know, just gonna go ahead and start it up. Yep. So For the sake of this video too, this is also loaded on the SSD just because this would take ages to boot up. But you know, see, look, keeping in touch with Acer, this is what my setup would have looked like. Just imagine Windows 8 or Windows 10. I think it's Windows 11 loaded on this. Yep, it is. So, you know, it's a little modern. It's a modern setup and OS with a older style, you know, components and parts. But just to quickly show you guys what I probably would have been rocking back then is let me see, Task Manager. So I would have been rocking these parts back then. Most likely it would have been an Intel Core i3 2100 at 3 gigahertz, and on my laptop I actually have the i3 3120, I believe. So, you know, not that big of a difference. It would have been from a 3rd gen. That's why I said it's not an exact 100% replica, but it is pretty much there. It is same socket type, just going down to 2nd gen, which is not that big of a difference. 8 gigabytes of DDR3. I know my laptop has 4 gigs, and I probably would have had 4 gigs on this machine at the time and upgraded to like maybe 8 or 16 later on. But 8 gigabytes is pretty much the bare minimum as of today. So that's why there's 8 gigs. You know, realistically, maybe I would have 8 gigs in this machine back then, but if it was too expensive, I would settle for 4 gigs and dual channel, so 2 gigabyte sticks per DIMM slot. And that would have been perfectly fine. 4 gigs I think would have been okay back then still. SSD, just imagine it being on a hard drive, just, you know, storage 150. So my Blu-ray reader and my DVD also get picked up as well, which is amazing. That's honestly something I would want today, is these DVD readers. I know they're old now, not a lot of people have use for them, but I do myself. So that's pretty cool. This is, you know, pretty much what I would be rocking back then, and then playing games off the DVDs. We are going to be benchmarking some of these games. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to hook this up to my main computer to record gameplay, but I will see. If not, I will just record off of this camera. I know it'll suck, but I will be using MSI Afterburner, so I will be showing you guys the benchmarks of the games at the time, and then maybe a few of the current games out right now that you can play to see if this computer holds up. This is a 10-year-old system. Wow. So we'll see how it performs. Hope you guys like the videos and enjoy the benchmarks. So just wanted to show you guys, these are the games that I'd be benchmarking or would be playing on this system right here. All other games will be tested as well. And yes, the infamous CRYSIS. Will this PC back then run the infamous CRYSIS? Okay, so the first game we got is Mass Effect 2, the original one, and we are putting it full screen and max settings. Just showing you guys settings real quick before I load it into new game. Just to show you really quickly, everything's set to the max, and yeah, just gonna let it run and then show you guys the benchmarks for it and my thoughts on it. Turned off some of the bloom effects, but I can definitely tell when I'm looking at the gameplay and the cutscenes. Like for example, this is obviously a cutscene, but earlier definitely was the in-game engine. This takes me back to when I first bought this game, man, secondhand at a thrift store for like $5. It was honestly such a steal, because I mean, this is one of the first games I played. This probably is the first game I played on PC, so you know, it brings back memories being able to play it again. As you can see, these is a steady lock, 60 FPS, and GPU usage not going over 40. Same with our CPU, it's not going over 40%, and temperatures seem fine. They're hovering around the 60. It seems like the GTX 1060, my bad, the GTX 460 is around 60 Celsius, and the actual CPU, the i3, is around 50. So very nice temperatures. We'd be able to handle Mass Effect on max settings, even with 1 gig of VRAM. I mean, I don't think it uses even half of it, because the recommended settings were like 250 megabytes, I believe. I need to look at it again, but The system requirements weren't even that demanding. It did want a dual core CPU, which we do have. It is the i3, plus with hyper-threading does, you know, give us more of an advantage than a normal Pentium or, you know, quad, maybe not a quad core, but a dual core or core 2 dual. So, you know, this the start of the Intel lineup of the i3, i5, and i7 was such a big jump, and I know from the first gen to the second gen, because of the platform change and socket type, was a huge increase as well. And being an i3, it doesn't need that much wattage either. So I'm running and playing all these off a 300 or 350 watt power supply. So this is very, very low consumption, and the gaming experience is very smooth. I really enjoy this. I would have, pretty sure my laptop was able to handle this game if I remember correctly. 4 gigs of memory is what it asked for, and as you can see, we're like not even using 3. So 4 gigs would have been more than fine. Maybe in a higher demanding area it might change, but as of right now, 8 gigs, at least at that time, probably was overkill. It's probably what 32 gigs is compared to 16, but some games do require more. I know Warzone uses 16 gigs, and if you have 32, can use more than 16 gigs of RAM. So, you know, I'm pretty sure there were some titles back then that were the same. So, you know, I would say Mass Effect more than playable. You know, this is, at the time, was probably one of the more demanding games. I'm pretty sure, if not CRYSIS was, but out of my list here that we're using, this is like the one that reflects the games at the time for sure of that same year. So, you know, if I had this gaming rig back then, I would have been more than comfortable playing this 60 FPS locked. You know, I could have even done more. This monitor can be overclocked to 75 Hertz. So, you know, I think we'll move on to the next game. So our next game is CRYSIS, and the OG CRYSIS, the first version of CRYSIS on DVD. And as you can see, you know, this is the first mission after the intro, and after you jump off the plane, you can see we're like brushing at around 100, you know, so really like 70 to 100 FPS is kind of what we're getting. But if you take a look at our GPU usage, you can see for whatever reason it is not maxed out. And to be quite honest, this game, for the time it was released, is very graphically intense. It still looks modern to this day. If you have the original OG version of CRYSIS, or you go back and buy it, you can see the graphics still hold up very well today. As you can see, I'm running everything on very max, and our GPU was not maxed out, but on max we were getting like 80 to 90 FPS. But I set everything to high just to see if I would max out, and as you can see, it does. No issues. But we are, for whatever reason, getting lower FPS on the high settings versus the very high settings. Don't keep note of the FPS right now, because whenever I go into an autos new section and it does the auto save when going to a checkpoint, my FPS tanks. But afterwards, you can see, you know, we're pretty much steady around the 40 to the 50s. And you know, here in the new section, after you get your suit and you're able to use the abilities, you can see, looking at the scenario down to the highest point of the mountain, you can see we're getting still like 40s, you know, to 50s FPS, sometimes even just under 60, and this is still on the very high settings. So me personally, as a kid, if I was playing this even to this day, I would be more than happy with these frame rates. To be honest, I probably would even stick to high medium settings and lock my FPS to 60, you know, and find that sweet spot. But yeah. And you know, if I had to upgrade this machine down the line, you know, say maybe within the last year, I'd upgrade to a i7 2700K, a third-party cheap AIO cooler, either 16 or 32 gigabytes running in quad-channel DDR3, and a GTX 1060 6GB preferably, as that's pretty much the highest end GPU without bottlenecking. So, you know, if you guys enjoyed the video, please feel free to like and subscribe, and check out my Instagram. You guys can follow me there, and I'll always update, you know, in my next builds and when I'll be posting a video. If you guys can hit the like button and subscribe and check out my Instagram, I would appreciate it. I'm trying to hit 1,000 followers before the end of the year. That's my goal. But yeah, if you guys enjoy the video, feel free to share it and check out the other videos I have on my channel as well. I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy it if you like this type of content. Hope to catch you guys in the next one. Peace.